Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show this week. I have my new guest here, Robert Wolf. Robert, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated, Doc.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to get into talking about some really good topics. You do have a new book out that we'll talk a little bit about, Not a Real Enemy. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about you, how reading the book and sharing the stories could help cultivate racism and anti-Semitism and kind of really help us with that because that's a lot going on right now. I know you talked about you want the book to be taught in different schools or maybe lessons. So kind of get your input on that. And you brought up a really good topic about the Hungarian Revolution back in 1956, which has been compared to the current conflict in Ukraine. So I'd love to pick your brain on that. And then we'll just kind of wrap up with any of the topics or projects you might be having going on. But overall, how have you been so far, Robert?
I'm well, not bad for 61. I mean, I can't complain. I'm still active. I'm still working on this book fervently, many hours a day. I try to get exercise when I can, golf, pickleball, weight room. I've been gym rat for many, many years, probably about 40 years. Played all the sports in high school, college, pickup games, on and on. So I feel fortunate. I wish my parents were still around. They're not. We can talk about that a little bit too. Only child of only children. If you want me to introduce myself, I'm from Detroit, actually born and raised in Detroit. My parents were from Hungary, as you know. The book is about my dad, but it also includes my mom, mostly the second half of the book, how they met and my dad's final escape and my mom's really her only. Well, my mom actually escaped too, but she doesn't have a lot of documentation about it in the past. Wow. But she has some genealogy research she's done, but it's some of it's hard to read for me because I try to sort through it. But anyway, I'm from Detroit. Parents were they escaped from after the Hungarian Revolution of '56, came to the United States, learned the language. My dad had to redo his residency as an OBGYN at the esteemed Beth Israel in Boston, a Harvard affiliate, which I think is amazing because I couldn't get into any program at probably any Harvard affiliated hospital. I'm an smart guy, but you're talking about top tier, top level people, Hopkins, Yale, Harvard. I did end up at Yale for a year. So in order, so high school in a suburban town of Detroit called Mount Clemens. And then I was fortunate enough to go to Tufts University for college and then University of Michigan for medical school. I'm a radiologist. So, I mean, you talk about that's 8 years of sweat. I breeze through that every time we do these interviews and it's just sweat. It's not. Did an internship year at Boston University, Framingham Union Hospital, famous for the Framingham Heart Studies. It's now called Metro West, beautiful area. And then I've lived half my life in New England, half my life in Michigan. I ended up doing my radiology residency at Brown in Rhode Island, and then my neuroradiology fellowship at Yale New Haven Hospital. So very fortunate that now I'm about 30 at this point, and indentured servantry is still amongst us, and finally got a real job. And I've been in the radiology business for about 35 years and still practicing very part-time.
That's amazing.
The radiology actually brought me to the book. If you want me to talk to you about the history of the book, or unless you have another question. So flash back to the 70s. My mom and dad finally, my mom and dad moved to Michigan because that's where the jobs were. There were no jobs in Massachusetts at the time. We're talking about the early 60s. Came to Detroit for a better job, and then an even better job a few years later where I grew up through 12th grade. But my dad became an OBGYN, and he delivered 10,000 babies in his shortened career, about a 24-year career. That doesn't include what he did in Budapest and Boston, but I'm sure it was a few more thousand. But that's for the best of our records. That's what we know of. But 10,000 babies. So that's redemption. That's the punchline in all of this, is that he brought all these lives back into the world. And I'm still getting feedback on that when I do book talks and posts on social media. And it's a wonderful feeling. It's not just about my dad's miraculous life, how harrowing it was and how he got through it without the PTSD and how he did what he did. And my mom, same thing. So anyway, back to the 70s. So I'm just a kid, and mom and dad documented his history dating back to his parents, World War I. It covers, it's a history book too, my book. Covers World War I Hungary all the way to the end of the Hungarian Revolution, like you said, in 1956. It's my dad's biography, and it was written as an autobiography. My mom and dad worked on it in the 70s, and it was literally paper and pencil to a typewriter, to a computer, to a desk.
Well, I haven't seen those in years. But
I know. The last time I used one was probably in college, the old Olivetti typewriters. And Well,
Wow.
I took typing in high school, and it helped. And I took piano lessons in high school too, and both helped at least for computer work. Our phones and our computers, because it's all typing now. It's very little writing, of course, as you know.
Right. That's
But
amazing.
yeah, so a typewriter, yeah. I mean, and then to computer, and then to a disc. And then my dad passed in 1997, unfortunately. My mom
Mhm.
passed in 2016, unfortunately. And then a friend of mine, a historian friend from my mom's hometown, Kim Parr, super
Mhm.
nice lady, super intelligent, still friends. She hands me the disc and says, you've got to look at this sometime. I didn't think much of it at the time. I had to take care of my mom's affairs for a year, and then I decided to retire for a year, do a little traveling. But a friend of
Mhm.
mine in Michigan said, I need some help. I'm short, and can you help me with some x-rays and ultrasounds? So I went back to work after 1 year retirement. But I've been part time since 43, so I've been part time or retired for 18 years, which that's good money management. And I don't have kids, and I didn't have to send kids to college, and there's different things, but saving and investing and all of
Yeah.
that. Fortunate me, I mean, to be able to have choices, I suppose. So she hands me the disc. So now it's 2018. I'm back to work, and that brought me to the book. I loaded the disc up. As a radiologist, on the left side, we have our queue, we have our list of patients, and on the right side, we've got the images. So,
Mhm.
what I did with my dad's autobiography is on the left side was his auto, and on the right side was my version, my biography. So, literally word for word, or as much as possible, with translation issues and things like that, and research, I converted his autobiography into a plain biography, just point A to B to C. Dad was born on, dad did this, dad did that. So it wasn't
Right.
really an exciting biography. But so I queried, and I had some help with some agents and publishers, and didn't really get any bites. And so I had the book beta read by some professional authors. And one
Mhm.
was Lisa Tenner, another a super nice lady. She's helped me a lot with this book. Book coach. I highly recommend her if you need advice with the books. And I also recommend Janice Harper, who was my co-author. And Lisa hooked me up with Janice Harper,
Oh wow.
professional writer. She's a PhD, also has a Michigan connection from Michigan State, which is really cool. Anthropologist, but she also teaches how to write, and she's a book coach, and she does a co-author work. So she did the book with me and redid it. That took her a little over a year. She did her research, she did her homework, the history, talked to historians. She looked up the details of Hungarian culture and music and food. It's unbelievable what she did. Helped me with my
Wow.
proposal package. She made the book something special. So instead of just a biography, she turned it into a real story. And it's true. The stories are true, but she had to buff it up a little bit, like conversations and letters
Sure.
from home,
Mhm.
converging stories, parallel stories, that kind of thing. A remarkable job she did with the book. I had the story, and she had the talent to help me gel it into an amazing book, The Not a Real Enemy. Now this is 2019, I'd say 2020, maybe it's 2021 already. Oh my God, the time just flew by. She helped me with my proposal package, and she helped me vet out who we're going to pitch, not pitch, but query is really the more appropriate word, but
Right.
agents and publishers, and literally bottom of the ninth, shoestring catch. We got Amsterdam publishers to pick us up
Wow.
early January in 2022, and then by the end of the year in 2022, the book was released. And I think we're just still picking up things as far as momentum and traction as far as getting the book sold. But it is a difficult process. Um, I've had a great team helping me with the book, and
Mhm.
I'll show you the cover and it's called "Not a Real Enemy: The True Story of a Hungarian Jewish Man's Fight for Freedom."
Wow.
And
Amazing cover.
4 awards. I don't even know what to do with that. That's just the thing. I mean, I don't even have time to sit back on my laurels or whatever, pat myself on the back, or because I'm too
Right.
busy trying to promote the book, trying to get the message out about anti-Semitism, trying to fight the hate. But meanwhile, at least that means that the book is recognized as good work and important work by many sources. It's not just readers giving me good reviews, giving us good reviews. It's professional authors and editors that are giving us these awards. So it's fantastic. It's a fantastic thing.
That's
And
amazing.
then the most recent announcement is I've been asked to do a 2 day book signing at the US Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. in April. And I'm so excited about that. I didn't even
Wow.
have a chance to absorb that. And because I've got a lot of friends in D.C.,
Right.
my mom and dad have a 100-year-old friend. Hopefully he'll come to the book signing
Wow.
from the hometown. He's staying with his daughter, who's in the 70s. Super super nice people.
Right.
My next door neighbor, I've been in touch with her. She's in the D.C. area. Her husband is a general in the U.S. Army, which is really cool. He's been on TV. He's been on CNN. He's
Amazing.
helped construct under natural disasters. And I'm sure he's extremely busy now with everything going on.
Right.
Then another friend, he does what is it, the technology security company. He does the security, and somebody other, I can't even, a golf pro and his wife. I mean, so that'll be really a cool experience, and that's kind of the pinnacle of what we do. And I'm very blessed. I mean, I'm humbled. I
Yeah.
don't even know what to say about that, but. And I'm doing
Well,
Houston
that's
Holocaust
a great thing. Such a great thing
Houston
to
next
happen for
month,
you.
and others coming too, hopefully. But
Yeah. That's amazing. When is that going to be for you?
April 12th and 13th. So if you're in the Washington,
Wow.
D.C. area, please stop by, especially if you like the book. We'll sign up for you. It's not a book talk, but we did do a book talk presentation at the Illinois Holocaust Museum, my
Mhm.
hometown library, which was well received. I'm in talks with the Michigan Holocaust Museum right now, the Zeckelman Center, beautiful museum, just been refurbished, Orange County in California. And there's a whole list of them to reach out to. And believe me, they're all going to get reached out to, but I have no secretaries, I have no assistants, I have no help doing this. I could use two. I could use two literally full time to help me with social media and making the phone calls. But slowly but surely, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We get it done,
Right.
and still practicing a little cuts into my time a little bit. But it's I'm still helping people, and it keeps you sharp at 61. I mean, so no
Sure.
complaints
Sure.
there.
But
Heartfelt
you also
project.
have a story. You have a story you want to share as well too, and you talk a little bit about your father's history and his biography, but also you know you're going to have a chance to really make some kind of changes, but also give a lot of information to people. I mean, that's got to make you feel a little good to know that you're taking this part of history, your family history, and be able to share that with the world. Like, is there any hesitation you have with doing that? Or is there anything that you
No, I
worry
mean
would
it's a
be
little scary. I
misconstrued?
mean, I could be a target of haters, whether it's supremacists or. But if they just read the book, or if God
Right.
willing, it becomes a movie, and people see this movie like Schindler's List or the Diary of Anne Frank. Nobody who knew that they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. Maybe Anne Frank, but Schindler more recently with the movie. So, and everybody that reads
Right.
it says it should be. I mean, we're talking about a guy who escaped four times, twice from Nazi Hungary,
Wow.
twice from communist Hungary, and a
Yeah.
little story in there where he missed an escape during communist Hungary, went to the wrong train station, felt like he was the unluckiest guy in the world. And it turns out everybody who made that train, the right train, got arrested for trying to escape, including his
Wow.
medical school classmates. So, as they would say in The Sopranos, the luck on this guy. So my dad and many, many other miracles, hiding places, wearing women's clothes, cloak and dagger stories, arguing with armed Russian soldiers. I mean, he was brain and guts, no fisticuffs, no guns, no knives.
Right.
The paramilitary, when they were in forced labor camp, the Jews were thought unworthy of fighting for Hungary or for Nazi Germany. So they were, you were either killed or tortured or imprisoned, or you were in these forced labor camps, like my dad and his best friend Frank and his other friend
Mm.
Mike, which ended up saving their lives in the end, because even though it was brutal duty and very, very harrowing, in the end, that saved their lives from by being away and being what they called useful. So really, really sad and unfortunate. But they got shot at by Russian planes and beaten by the guards and urinated on, and many, many, many forms of torture. That's
That's right.
another lesson that I bring up, from time to time, is that the recurring theme here is that people find more and more ways to torture each other, to injure each other, to maim, to kill, uh,
Hmm.
to commit malfeasance. I mean, just talk about security codes or whatever, passwords. Why do we have passwords? We have 100 passwords each, right? Why? Because people are trying to steal from us. Better than trying to
True.
kill me, but it's ridiculous that we have to fight off. And you know about social media and malfeasance too. So, not that
Oh
that
yeah.
was around back then, because back then the witnesses were the next victims, as you know. So there were no
Yeah.
cell phones, there were no lawyers, there was no tribunal or judge and jury. And in fact, the government and the police were not your friends. In fact, they were your bitter enemies. The Arrow-Cross police, for example, the Hungarians treated the Jews worse than the Nazis did. So in some
Mm.
cases, so it just the ugliness went on and on and on, uh, unhindered, without hesitation, and finally it ended after the war ended. So another point I want to bring up that I don't get to all the time is that if the United States had invaded and won in Hungary rather than the Soviets, we wouldn't be here having this discussion. I'd probably be living in a free country called Hungary, and the government and the social climate would probably be a completely different animal than it has been for the past 30, 40, 50, 60 years. I've been invited to go there because it's the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Győr, my dad's hometown. But I'm a little scared
Right.
too, because the guy, the Orban, the leader there, they call him like a Putin light, or he's a Putin puppet. And it scares me a little to walk in there with a book that's putting down the Hungarian government, even though it's not the current Hungarian government. It's a government that was there. And my parents went back to visit a few times, and I went back with them under communist Hungary many, many years ago. But
Hmm.
So there's a lot on my plate with that. I mean, and I would love to go back for that reunion, but they say Hungary may not be such a great market to tap as far as selling the book. Even though someday it'd be great to get it translated into Hungarian. That's a whole other hour's discussion, is getting the book translated
Well,
in other countries, of course, but it's all part of the process.
and what do you think is one of the main things that is really, what are we really facing nowadays in this world? We have this stuff that's happening, over, in Israel and this in different cases, but, also the Ukraine conflict. Is it a lack of, back to my original question, it's just a lack of just understanding, or is it a lack of we just are really not trying to see both sides, or we really are just about just repeating history and just keep harming each other? Like, what, in your words, what do you think is really happening that we're not progressing to the form of really becoming united in our nation today?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I guess the best thing I can do is try to educate people within my own little wheelhouse here with the book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand hate. I think it's a wasteful, like jealousy. It's just a wasted emotion.
Yeah,
They compared early on. They compared the Ukraine war to the Hungarian Revolution because the Hungarians got no help with that. It was a 2.5 week war. It was over in bits, and the United States wasn't about to intervene in the middle of the Cold War. I believe that the United States has a duty to protect its own civilians. So to
sure.
try to get in a full-fledged war with with Russians now would be ill advised, at least in my, and that's what they're doing. But unfortunately, the war lingers on and on and on, and we don't even talk about it much anymore.
No,
We've become
no,
so immune to it. It's really sad. I mean, and now we're going on 2 years here. If I remember, I just heard that it's 2 years and ongoing. And now the Israel thing. I mean, we've talked about October 7th, 8th, and 9th, but
mm-hmm.
now not as much. But it's awful. I mean, I think Israel will take care of their problem, but it's really sad because you're always going to have that covert hatred. Yeah, and somebody just suggested here that people that are talking bad against the United States, Jewish people, and
Mm-hmm.
they're pro, they want Gaza to be Gaza. They should go there if they want to make a change. Go run for office. Go be in the military there. Whatever it takes. Don't support Hamas and Hezbollah
Right.
and ISIS and a government like Putin's that just wants to steamroll people. So and it
Mm.
was the same. The names are different, the dates are different, but the song remains the same. I mean, it's really sad. So my job in my little corner and other Holocaust authors, which Amsterdam Publishers is all they do, is other wonderful authors and great books from all around the world, and a big range of authors too, from a teenager to a 100-year-old author, 102 maybe,
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable. So they're all trying to give the same message. We're all doing book talks.
Right.
We're trying to do book signings, podcasts like this, which thank you very much again. It's very important. If I
Mm-hmm.
get 5 book sales from this podcast, I will have done my job. You'll get 5 readers that'll see this amazing book. They'll say, "Oh my God!" They'll put themselves into my dad's place and say, "Maybe I can do something to change things." And I do want the book to be taught in the classroom. It's on the shelves at the Tufts University bookstore. I'm proud to say.
Oh,
I met
great.
the Tufts president recently and gave him a copy of the book. I've donated 200 books to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Israel. The
Mm-hmm.
US Holocaust Museum has it on sale, of course, and featuring me with the book signing, which is unbelievable. The Illinois Holocaust Museum, and I've donated to the Museum of History in London, the Holocaust Museum in Johannesburg, South Africa. That was an adventure, just getting the book into the building there. So, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
ultimately, yeah, in the classroom. I don't know about high school. It'd be great summer reading, I suppose, for high school, but it's because it's a 400-page book. But college classes, yeshiva schools, Holocaust education, history professors. My co-author is gung ho on reaching out to them with postcards and emails, and we're going to do that. It's part of the list. But there's
Yeah.
so much to do. There's just so much to do, and for now, I'm doing these talks and podcasts and book signings. I don't say no to any invitations. If you invite me, if you like the book, and I fly to California, Colorado. The last podcast I did was a gentleman from Colorado. I've done one
Mm-hmm.
from New Zealand, which is amazing. Western Canada,
Wow.
more coming. New York City is the forerunner. You're my third or fourth out of New York City, and I love it because New York City for me is an untapped market, and New York City could use some education about. And we haven't even talked about 911. Holocaust deniers are now these kids protesting in colleges, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't even know they're denying 911. Some of them weren't born yet. Well, I got to remind these kids, 911 was American targets. It wasn't Jewish targets. It was
Right.
Muslims died, Jewish people, Christians, many people, Asians. And on that note, my friends and myself, I'm friends with, I have more Christian friends than Jewish friends. I have Asian friends. I have Hawaiian friends, people from India. One of my best friends from college, Saki, he's Muslim. He came with me in Arizona to do a talk at a Greek Orthodox church. One of my
Well,
best friends from high school is the priest there, and my assistant is Muslim, and so we got a Jewish guy and a Muslim in a Greek Orthodox church talking about my book, and we need more of that because that audience was unbelievable. We had kids, we had adults, and a high school kid read the book after my talk, and he wrote a nice review about it, and that's what I'm trying to do. It's not going to be everybody. Unfortunately, 99% of people I'd say have this normal sense of morals and scruples and ethics, but it's this 1 or 2% that it's always one guy who ruins it for everything, for
yeah,
everybody.
that's
And
good.
that,
I mean, I think that's good because I think the problem, you're hitting it right there, is that we don't allow ourselves to get out of our norms or our sense of level of understanding. And I think and a lot of it's because it's scary. I think a lot of it is the unknown. And I am 100% been victim to that because, and this is why one of the things I want to do with my podcast and my show is that you want to have awareness. It may not be everything I understand. It may not be everything I'm going to fully either want to accept or be a part of. But I think it's the fact that you take the time to take the education in and to learn something that goes so much further. And we have to get better about being more open with ourselves and being more open with the uncomfortableness of life. And I think a lot of times I have a lot of Jewish friends I grew up with. I went to NYU, so I've been in New York.
absolutely. Hey,
So it was
give
learning.
me a book talk there. You know any professors there? I'll
Yeah,
do.
exactly. Yeah.
I
So
interviewed at
like,
NYU. I interviewed at
yeah,
NYU for ophthalmology. That was actually my first choice. So I've had
yeah.
disappointments in my life too. I actually originally wanted to be an eye doctor, but I couldn't get in. It was so competitive. I mean, so
It's
that was like
hard.
a big trauma for me, but it worked out because I love radiology. I love what I do. But
Yeah. But it's
you
like,
know,
one of those things where it's like you're around the culture, you're around the aspect of it. And it's sad to hear these stories of how this has gone on, like the hate that's out there. And it's just like, why would you hate someone for being someone different? Like, why would you go through that? I mean, as you mentioned earlier, it's a wasteful thing, and it just shows a lot of in-levels insecurities that you probably have within yourselves, which is what I wholeheartedly believe a lot of this shit is half time. But it's just sad that people don't take the time to just factor in and listen and then be okay to agree to disagree. That's one of
I,
the things I've noticed
I
with a lot of my
completely,
friends.
completely.
It's like just agree or disagree. Okay, you've said your point. I understand that. Thank you so much. Okay, and
And
I
we
mean I
move
may
on.
agree with that, but it's fine.
We move on. No, we raise a
Yeah,
family. We work. We
yeah,
do. We give back to the community.
yeah,
We want to feed our children and teach our children and
absolutely.
grandchildren. That's my
Yeah.
other thing is the grandkids. I hope my
Oh,
grandkids, my step grandkids, keep the lesson going, even though they don't read much about the Holocaust, but
yeah.
two of the kids. I've got two stepdaughters and three step granddaughters. Two of them have already been to the Holocaust Museum, sending me photos of them holding the book and telling the staff about me. And here I am, a couple months later. I'm going to meet the staff myself. And I bet you if I know one of the kids, Jen, she'll probably show up for the book signing because she's just like that. I mean, she's wonderful. So I've got these great kids, and I agree. And I was going to ask you about New York City because it was kind of a mess. They had the prayers, all these massive prayers, and what was it,
Absolutely.
Times Square, and it's fine. Freedom of religion, I believe in, but I pray every Saturday, but I pray at home, or I'll go to the temple or whatever. I pray at the
Yeah,
appropriate place. I don't need to. It's not like it's the Wailing Wall. I mean, the Wailing Wall is a place for prayer,
right.
Jews, Christians, and otherwise. I mean, but traditionally Jewish, but it doesn't have to be the Eastern Wall. I mean, or the Western Wall, I should say.
Yeah,
For example. But if I'm going to Times Square, if I'm a visitor, and I'm going to be in New York City too, by the way, I'd like to meet you. Maybe that would be nice if we could
yeah, yeah.
get a coffee
Definitely.
or some lunch. I'll be there for a
Absolutely.
few days with Amsterdam Publishers soiree, a little get together, which is really nice.
Hmm.
And but I don't want to go to Times Square and see all these thousands and thousands of people protesting or praying or whatever. I want to go there to go to TGI Fridays or catch a play or a concert or something, right? I mean, I'm not there for all of that. I mean, so
I think people take the level of protest, and there's nothing against protest, and nothing against activism. I think you're allowed to have your voice and your opinion. I have nothing against that, but it gets to a point where, how to put it this way, there's a time and place for those things, and I think doing them in certain areas, what do you really get out of that? People are don't. If you're a New Yorker, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're a New Yorker, real New Yorker, you don't like Times Square. It's probably the last place you want to even go to in the first place.
of
So
course,
it's like if you're trying to get a message out to a lot of people, I don't understand how over the years they don't understand this. And no one's going to Times Square to do that. I used to work in Times Square, and trust me, it's the worst place in the world. Yeah, if you're a tourist, it's good to see it. Go visit it. Go hang out there. Whatever. Like go to TGI Fridays at Olive Garden or watch the top ball drop. Whatever. But there's not a place that you purposely want to go to every day. So just find other places to have, your discussions. Or I remember last time I had a protest in my neighborhood. I'm in Chelsea. They did it on bikes. And I'm like, okay, great. All right, you did it on bikes. You're moving. You're having a message in a different part of town. You're learning something new, and it's different. But to sit in Times Square and do it, I'm like, but what's okay?
I agree. Well, I don't know what's going on in Gaza or Hamas. We must not lose sight. These two terrorist acts. People were raped. They were killed, maimed,
Yeah, yeah.
tortured, still with hostages, I believe. I don't know what the numbers are, but when we say numbers, numbers are one is too many, right? I mean, that's
Hmm.
like one
Absolutely,
person reading my book is enough. 10,000 is better, and one is too many. 10,000 is worse. If you're
of
talking
course.
about murder, I mean, what does that have to do with a guy like you or me? I mean, why would I be? It's got nothing to do with me. I'm not living there. I'm not protesting. I'm not.
No.
People within people can change their own government. One of the mucky mucks from the Hamas actually had some reasonable things to say how horrible everything that happened could have been avoided and should have been.
Yeah.
And then I've just been reading that people suggest this guy should run for governor of Gaza or president, whatever the high office is, and settle things down. And and the terrorists scare me. I mean, because they're coming through the borders too. They're
Oh, absolutely.
Canada, United
Absolutely.
States, and who knows when we're going to get hit again.
I mean, I live in New York City, so God knows what can happen here on any
it's
day.
unbelievable. They've
You
got
know.
this. There's got this fetish about planes and big
Hmm.
populated areas, and
Yeah.
New York is the classic. Everybody wants to hit Gotham. Where's our Batman and Robin when we need him, and our Superman when we need him?
Well, don't get me
So
started on that one because apparently Batman's not doing a good job if it keeps happening to Gotham every freaking 5 seconds. But I digress on that level.
no, I agree. No, I agree, and I feel the same way about Miami. I mean, I'm near Fort Lauderdale, Miami here, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. I'd love to go there every day, go to the beach, and have a couple of
Sure.
cocktails and look at the girls, and then get on the
Uh-huh.
golf course in the morning, whatever. And I'm not doing that because it's wonderful, but I just don't have the inkling. But that's what you sing about time when you say that about Times Square. But I do look forward to the New York trip, partly to meet all these other wonderful authors,
No,
partly to see other
absolutely.
friends in New York, meet people
Yeah.
like you if possible, and
Yeah.
just enjoy the city while I can. I'm actually not flying up on the 11th because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not.
No.
I'm coming another
Yeah.
day, but I'm leaving on the
Yeah.
13th, which is funny. I'm going back on a Friday the 13th.
I actually, it's so crazy. I do not fly. I actually have a wedding in Aspen, I think on the 12th of September. Yep, the 12th of September.
oh, then I
And I
won't meet
purposely
you. Yeah.
not flying. I think I don't fly on the 11th. I know it's crazy to think about that. I mean, maybe just for myself or maybe my own kind of remembrance of it, or just because I was supposed to go to college around that time when that happened. Like that was my generation. And so for me, it's like, it just brings too much. I just can't do it. I never do it. And I was actually in Amsterdam last year, supposed to fly back on the 11th. I was like, no, I'll just take another day. I just flew a later
Are
day
you
after.
driving? Are you driving to Colorado? Is that what you're saying? Or are you
Oh God,
taking a
no,
train?
no. There's no way I'm driving to Aspen from here. No, but I just refused to fly on September 11th. So
Oh,
ideally,
right. So, I
you
see.
know,
So go on
yeah,
the 10th or the 9th and enjoy Colorado. It's a
right. I'm like,
beautiful
I'll just
state.
do those days instead. But it's something that just it's the history is always here, and it's always something you have to think about, and it's something that obviously different generations are different, and it affects people differently. But it's just a history that you need to be aware about and know, and realize, this can happen again. It's not a one-off thing that can happen, and we're like I said, we're seeing that today, which
Yeah.
is very sad.
Well, I agree. I mean, my slippery slope fighting this went from like this to this. I'm now trying to
Yeah.
climb up an icy, a Colorado mountain with a pick
No.
and nothing but ice. That's how
Yeah,
I feel right now. But we'll get it done. It's a challenge, but that's
it
what
is.
you got to do it. And I'm getting more supporters and connections. And I've been actually recently invited to do a talk. It's a virtual. It's online. It's like this, but it's with all these these really really big Holocaust educators throughout the world, including India and England. And I
Wow.
really look forward to that. I'd probably be a little bit nervous because these are all really experts in the field. But for them
Right.
to invite me to talk about to do my book talk, and it's a wonderful talk. I mean, it's about a 15, 20-minute book talk, usually well received, and we get a lot
Yeah.
of questions and answers just like this. So anyway, that's a nice little accolade too. And I do want to mention that
Well,
10% of my author proceeds are going to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. As
okay.
we speak, and that's
Oh,
ongoing. That's not just now. That's posthumously too when I'm dead, and it's in my trust. And hopefully they get a lot of money over time.
no,
And
that's
then
amazing.
if the kids survive and it's in the trust and the book does well, it becomes a movie, whatever the case may be, and they get the benefit of that. which would be probably more likely to happen than during my lifetime. Although I hope I have a few more years to talk about my book.
I'm sure you do. You take care of yourself.
Well, you never
You
know.
good
Good,
to
the
hear.
good graces, yeah, the good graces of
Yeah.
God. But anyway, no. So hopefully that's on and on and on, and that's the best I can do as far as I've got my own little
Yeah.
story, my parents' story, and it tells us how spoiled we are sometimes as Americans. Nobody
Mm.
wants to wait in line at McDonald's for more than 5 minutes. Let
I
let
mean,
alone the
listen, I'm a
grocery
New
store.
Yorker. I don't do lines. I know exactly. It's horrible. I've gotten spoiled.
London was the same way. I was in London. I was the pleasure to go to London for a Jewish Genealogical Society meeting. I didn't think I was
Yeah.
going to get a lot of traction. I sold like 5 books in 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes there. But what it did get me is some connections, some contacts, and some networking. So I've already got 2 talks done here in Florida as a result of that meeting, and hopefully more coming, including Holocaust museums down here. So it's
Wow.
wonderful. But London everybody was in line. I mean, some restaurants 6-month wait to get a reservation, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
you guys in New York, you call it standing online. I always love that. You get a smear. I had to stand online for a smear or whatever, or a coffee with cream. What was the cream? It was a weird thing about the cream in the coffee. I don't know, but
Like
standing
it's always
online.
coffee, it's always bagels, it's always some kind of dessert. But there was a funny thing I learned. There was a service here in the city that people would use that actually they would hire someone to wait in line for them at all these places and just show up and do that. And I'm like, God, we've gone too far at this point when it
Well, I
comes
wonder what
to
they
that.
pay them, but I mean, they probably make a nice penny. That's
I
an
mean, they
easy job.
do.
You can play on
That's
your
the
phone
thing.
while you can play on your phone while you're waiting, but still,
Yeah.
but
But that's the thing. Like that's what we do as America. I know it's crazy.
But I just the
Um.
online thing is it's online as it's computer work and all that. But standing online,
Oh
I think
yeah.
of, you're walking on people's heads.
I
So
love it. That's the way you probably think about it. You're like, how does that work?
I love New
Um,
York, but I hate the sports teams. I'm a Detroit fan, so when they beat the Yankees or the Knicks or the Rangers, the original six, there you go. The
yeah,
Lions always play the Giants and the Jets tough, but no, I mean I love the fact that it's such a megalopolis that you get all these sports and the Madison Square Garden does so well, and
yeah.
I've seen the Who there. I've seen a Pistons game there. I've seen a Red Wings game there. Really cool. It's a great spot. I mean, and
It's
that's a fun
amazing.
area too. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, I look forward to you connecting and coming here. Want to talk to you a little bit about educating me a little bit on the Hungarian Revolution of 1956. You talk about how it's compared to the conflict in Ukraine. Can you say a little bit about how that is kind of connected or how you come to this conclusion on that?
well, the Hungary with the Ukraine war, well, mostly because they
Yeah.
didn't get help. I mean, mostly there was. I
Mhm.
mean, Ukraine they might be getting help now, but it's kind of fleeting. I don't know. They just voted in the Senate again about funding Israel and Ukraine, and I didn't. I'm not real political, so I didn't see all the results of that. I'm not
Yeah.
going to start the details, but it's just ongoing. I mean, Russia supposedly isn't communist, but to me, it feels like a communist flare. I don't. People can come and go out of Russia. I don't know if they can or not, but they couldn't back in the communist era. I just don't feel this hostility, and for weeks and months they were building up their troops and finally invading Ukraine. We saw it happen in front of us, and
Yeah.
we have stopped it then? I mean, I think Biden tried. I mean, but it's a difficult thing when people think
I
they're
mean,
right.
but do
We
you
think
but,
they're right.
but do you also think that helping and this is a very controversial thing to say, but do you think helping is really helping or is it just enabling or is it really something that's
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great point. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, it's enabling. I mean, you're prolonging the agony. I mean, by
Hmm.
funding with more, you're killing people on the other side too. And I remember them dragging off Russian soldiers to go fight, and these guys were crying. They were dragging them by their feet and their hands and their head
Yeah.
because these guys didn't want to fight. I remember in the beginning they wanted peace. Russia's been peaceful for a long time. So, and the United
Right.
States tries to be, but now we got a lot of enemies to worry about. There's Iran, there's North Korea, there's China. I wouldn't call China an enemy, but they're a yellow flag type of country. We talk about cyber attacks and
Right.
nuclear and chemical and malfeasance. I mean, these countries all scare me, and I'm really no hurry to visit any of them. But not to get off the subject, but lucky for the Hungarians that the Hungarian Revolution ended quickly, but not lucky because the Russians squashed them. It was tanks versus guns and people.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fair fight. And then communism it got even more hardline. And there's stories beyond that my parents got married after that in 1953. And
Hmm.
there's a very harrowing story about my mom's uncle after they had an illegal Jewish wedding. So the Russians didn't treat the Hungarians any better than the Nazis did, short of corralling them into ghettos and crowded areas, and then hauling them off in trains to be killed, which is what happened to my dad's parents. Not exactly like that, but eyewitness testimony about what happened to my dad's parents at Auschwitz. And so that
Wow.
I'm going out of the Hungarian Revolution because it's a short part of the book, but it is an important lesson, and it's a forgotten lesson. I guess that's the other thing you bring up is nobody knows about Hungary history, or maybe historians do, very select few, and
Yeah.
so it brings up the story of Hungary, the way that the kids protested. That's how it kind of started. There was college kids and a lot of young people, and a separatist leader who
Hmm.
got going, and it ended badly for him. They took him away and apparently tortured and killed. And I don't know. I'm just not. It's just. And my parents, by the way, were frontliners in the Hungarian Revolution. My dad had to double down as a surgeon, trauma surgeon. So he was doing his OBGYN and
Hmm.
trauma surgery day and night for 2.5 weeks. So
Wow.
I don't know how he survived that. And mom ran the blood bank. Mom was a medical student during that war, and she when they left in '56, right after the war, she was 13 months away from graduating medical school, and she never got to go back because she had to help support my
Hmm.
dad in Boston, unfortunately. But she was a good mom and active in the Jewish community, the medical community, on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that war was so short, and there was really nothing. By the time we didn't have that kind of communication back in the '50s that we do now with cell phones and videos and
Yeah.
live stuff, of course, satellite information. So we didn't have that kind of information. So I think that was part of the problem. Maybe if the Hungarian Revolution went on for 6 months, a year, maybe they would have got more help from the U.S. and Britain and France. But people were scared of the Russians, and I think they still are. I mean, it's scary when you've got a country that's got
Yeah.
that has the power that can annihilate many parts of the world in just a matter of minutes, and that
And it's also sad to think that there's a chance. I mean, well, I don't know how we feel about this now, but that a World War III, which has been talked about for many, probably decades and years since the last war, it's something that can happen to the point of we are still at this level of an empath of not really connecting on certain levels. But also, it just gets down to a point of it not getting too political. It's just like it's just a level of power shifting, and it's kind of sad to see how we keep going back and forth with these things. I mean, I'm grateful to be an American. I'm not, and I don't look at it as non-patriotic to not want to help others and do anything else like that. But I also think that at some point, it's like we we flaunt this level of who we are as Americans in our country, and it's like it's almost like a I want to be a big brother. I want to help everyone, but at the same time, I'm going to cause a lot of controversy back and forth. And you look at our last election, which really put a damper on a lot of people. I traveled the world in this aspect you did, and I don't know if this happened to you. I had a lot of people tell me, I really respected America. I really did. And then you voted for that guy. And it's like, well, I didn't vote for him. I had nothing to do with that, But I said, but it shouldn't change the aspect of what it still means to be an American or what the country still stands for. And how these political figures have come down certain people to look at them and be like, well, because of that, I've lost all sense of what America is. And that's the sad part.
I couldn't
And
say
that's
it any
sad.
better. I couldn't
Yeah.
say it any better. I mean, I love this country. My
Yeah.
mom and dad did. I mean, they were actually patriotic Hungarians, not Nazi and communist Hungary, but Mother Hungary.
Yeah.
Patriotic to Israel and patriotic to the United States, all the way. This was by far their number one choice. My mother's mother had already lived in Israel at the end of the Hungarian Revolution, and with the stepfather, they were divorced to save their family name. They divorced and separated and lived in different parts of the world just to help save the family, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
Talk about a reason to get a divorce. Anyway, all wonderful people. I met them all as a kid. They kind of died too young, probably all in their 60s. But yeah, they invited them to come to Israel to live instead of the United States. And the Sinai War was going on at the same time in '56, and my mom and dad said no, 2 wars was enough. We don't. They loved Israel, but they wanted to live in the
Yeah.
United States where they felt more secure.
Yeah.
All right,
And
so
it,
the Sinai, you brought up something I haven't mentioned ever in a podcast, so I'm going to say something. The guys that were in the tanks in the Hungarian Revolution were not Russians. They were not native Russians. They were from other parts of Asia,
hmm.
like Tibet and Nepal. And so when they were in Hungary, they thought they were fighting the Sinai War. My dad
Wow.
recants that, and that is in the book. These poor guys, they thought they were in the Middle East and they were in Hungary fighting. Can you believe that? So
No way.
talk about not telling your guys what to do and where you're at. I mean, can you imagine a general not telling his colonels? So
Yeah.
and
I feel
the
like that happens
remarkable.
in our government all the time, but I don't
Well,
know.
of course, no. I mean, no government's perfect, but
No.
look, we could cut. I'm not going to blame anything on any one guy because there's a staff. We have a
Of course.
Senate. We have a
Of
Congress.
course.
But do we
Of
need
course.
that many people? Do we need
No.
400 some odd? We could cut that in
Absolutely
half.
not. No.
The rise and fall of the Roman Empire. I just keep thinking of the senators. The senators were the ones that were wise. But how many did they have? Maybe 25. I don't know Roman history that well, but how many
Yeah.
did they actually have to govern the people? Of course, the population wasn't, what do we have now in America? 350 million people, something like
Somewhere
that.
around there. Yeah.
So
No,
I
it's
don't know. It's
crazy.
because a governor from Alaska is not going to be able to think like a guy from New York City, and a
Probably
guy from
not.
Pennsylvania, from suburban Pennsylvania, doesn't think like a guy from Los Angeles, California. It's not,
Yeah.
the people that run, like I thought Giuliani might have been a good, he for whatever reason, he was really outvoted, but I thought he would have been a decent candidate. And I'm kind of a little right of center if I have to be any political. I like reasonable politics. I like
Sure.
responsibility, spending especially, because that's another thing. If we cut the government in half, the spending might get curtailed, and never mind our $30 trillion and counting debt that we have, our national debt. We
That's
need more
not
fiscal responsibility. We need more responsibility at the borders. The borders is a dangerous thing for the United States right now.
absolutely. No,
I
I
don't
get
blame
it.
people from wanting to flee. My parents fled from war and war-torn country, but the people are. But they got to do like my parents and do it the right way. Get
Yeah.
try to learn the language as best as you can, and at least get your citizenship and work and live responsibly, not raise the crime rate or whatever's going on. So
Yeah.
the New
Yeah.
York City crime rate, I understand, is going way up. So that's sort of there's probably a magnet for people that are looking for work and don't have any idea where to go, and they're not sure which
Mhm.
city to be in. I think New York City is. And if you can't speak English, that's okay too, because as long as you communicate and you can do your job without having to speak English, that's fine. I
Right.
mean,
Exactly.
it's pay your bills, pay your taxes, healthcare costs. We don't even talk about healthcare costs, legal costs. I mean, it's on and on. I did jury duty. I got out of it because of this book. So I got to pitch the whole courtroom, including the lawyer, the prosecuting attorney. She was cute and pregnant.
Yeah.
Never forget. And but no, I pitched the book, and I said I wanted to say more about the courtroom, and I said this courtroom is cleaner than the hospitals I've worked at. I mean, it's so pristine, and they've got 30 or 40 different courts and prisoners coming in and out, and jurors, and
Yeah.
talking about the costs of retrial. And I'm like, the cost of retrial? What about just the cost of this whole legal process anyway?
Of
They
course.
didn't have that in Hungary, unfortunately. I mean, fortunately, in the United States, we still have that. So it was actually a murder trial, and I got out. I don't remember the guy's name. I felt badly. Probably a guy my age, maybe a little younger. And, he may have been guilty. He may have been innocent. And this is one I wanted to say. In the end, there was a guy that was dead. And
Yeah.
that's the bottom line. That's the sad part. Whether the Russians did it, we did it, whether it was the guy that did it or somebody else framed him. I mean, it's still somebody died, and they died too young, and for whatever reason, that's nobody really has the right to tell me or you how to practice your religion or how long you get to live or
Mhm.
where you get to work or don't work, which happened to the Hungarian Jews between World War II and the Hungarian Revolution. They were in pretty much farms and factories. My dad was intelligent, fortunately, and there was a 10% quota for to get into medical school. And they were
Right.
short doctors, badly short of doctors because of all the homicide, because of all the genocide in World War II. So my dad got to go back to medical school finally by that route. So, and he
Yeah.
was out of high school for a while because he was Jewish, and he got kicked off his swim team because he was Jewish. So, and then they had a legal Jewish wedding, and I don't want to tell you the harrowing story, but my mom's uncle, it's awful. They couldn't even have a Jewish wedding.
Wow.
They had the regular civil wedding. It was in a horrible room, a horrible building, and it was just my dad described it like I said the day before, which is how they wrote the story, by the way, in the '70s. Like everything had happened the previous day. They were that much detail and that sharp. But anyway,
That's
so
good.
yeah,
I
you're
mean,
Jew.
that's great to hear.
It was,
Yeah.
there was the Red Terror between World War I and World War II before the rise of the Nazis. There was the Red Terror. There was the White Terror. There was Horthy. The Jews didn't know who the people were that were leading or what part of the world they were living in because the countries changed so much. The anatomy, I call it, but it's the geography changed so much. You didn't even know what country you were in, but that you could tell that the Jews always felt that how is this going to hurt me? How is this going to screw me over? When am I
Absolutely.
going to get somebody? And that brings me to my dad's escapes. When he escapes in the middle of the mountains, where is he running to? We talk about the light at the end of the tunnel. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where your house is. You don't even know if you can go back to your house because they're still war torn. You're in your own town. So it
He
was
said he did it four. He said it 4 times. He did it.
4 times escape. Yeah, twice from Nazi Hungary. So forced labor camp out of the middle of nowhere. That was their first one. That's the one I remember the most. Back to when I first read my dad's book, probably 30 years ago. Remembered
Hmm.
very little. Now this time it stuck, But that was his first one, and then they escaped from Budapest. It was a Hogan's Heroes type. That's the best way I can. But it was just the timing and the precision and the luck and the skill and the brains that they used to get out. And
Wow.
it's just brilliant. I mean, and by now, now the risk tolerance is going up and up and up. So, and my dad's third escape, he was in medical school, and he got out, and he made it. He made it to Austria, but he was worried about fear of reprisal if he got caught. And so he turned back on his own, went to Budapest. He was on call the next night, and nobody even knew he was gone. And then finally, their fourth escape was pretty harrowing too. When my mom and dad left Hungary in '56, you'd be
Wow.
surprised who would help them escape, and you'd be surprised what some of the people would say in anti-Semitic remarks while they're helping Jewish people escape a war-torn country. So it's just unbelievable. I mean, and my dad, believe me, he was chomping at the bit, wanted to argue with these guys, but you don't bite the hand that feeds you. These guys are
No,
helping you escape the country. But can you imagine that? I mean,
that's crazy.
yeah, it's all. And then the fact about fitting in or not, because my dad wasn't Orthodox enough, so he didn't fit in.
Yeah.
He didn't fit in as a kid because he wasn't Orthodox, or he was Jewish, or there's just so many different little twists and turns in it. And that was the motivation for doing this book. The message was clear from page one, and you go with it, and you empathize with my dad before the end of the book. You're in his shoe steps. You feel like, and that's a big lesson. Is what happened to my dad could happen to any one of us. We've talked about war, World War III, God forbid, on American soil. Yeah. It could be a bad neighbor. It could be a bad business deal, bad federal government, local government, a bad foreign government that can change, a natural disaster. Anything like that could change yours and my life, where you're scrounging for food, looking for a place to live, looking for a place to hide, and
Absolutely.
With or without people chasing you. So we've all seen Escape from New York. I guess maybe you weren't around then when remember that movie? It was
no, but I did go back and watch it. It was very interesting. I watched it.
Yeah, no. I barely remember, but I remember the gist of it. All the prisoners in the country where they were put onto Manhattan Island, if I remember correctly. Which that's not that doesn't sound appealing either. So
now, Rob, where can everyone get your book at? Now, it's already been released, right? And so, is there like an Amazon? Is it Kindle? Where's the best?
Yep, all of it. Amazon's the easiest, and you can write me. You can email me. Well, you can write me at my I got a website, which is robertjwolfmd.com. If you want to learn more about the Hungarian Revolution, more about the history of Hungarian Jewry and Hungary in Nazi Hungary, and then so that's the website, robertjwolfmd.com. The book is on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble online. You can go to any Barnes & Noble store and ask for it. It is on sale at probably 15 or 20 Barnes & Noble stores throughout the country, including California, Massachusetts, Tufts University. Like I said, that's a Barnes & Noble representative. Massachusetts, another one, here in Florida. So it's available. But if it's not, you can ask. You can have it emailed. You can have it mailed to you, just like you would through Amazon, or you can go back to the store and pick it up. It's also Walmart. You can buy it at Walmart. And the book is on sale at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, where I'll be doing the book signing in April. And also the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center, which we did an amazing presentation last fall. We did a little talk and a fireside chat and a question and answer and a book signing. It was so well received. We closed the place. I mean, people didn't want to leave. Lots of questions and terrific audience. Next door neighbor was there, and my mom's parents, my mom and dad's one of their best friends, a Hungarian Jew, also from Michigan, now in Colorado. Her daughter lives in Illinois. She was there at that. And then my Michigan, I mean, I knew everybody in the building. It was unbelievable. So that's what makes your day. That's what makes this whole thing worth it. Is that kind of
absolutely.
People were talking about it for weeks after the talk and the get-togethers and just the camaraderie.
You're doing a podcast at home. You have to do daily laundry, and everything else goes off at once.
I'm with you, my friend. I miss my team. I'm here alone right now. I got a lot of friends here, but and all over the country, but not. They're not going to help me with my laundry, unfortunately. Do the groceries.
We still got to do everything else on our own. We got to make these things happen. Well, Robert, this was amazing. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us. I'm going to put links in the podcast so we can get to your website where they can purchase the book. Best of luck to you in DC. And if you're in New York, please feel free to hit me up. And
I appreciate
love to have you on again in the future. We have obviously an election coming up, so I'll have a lot of panels coming up later on this year. So it will be very interesting what's going to happen back in November.
Well, I don't even know who to vote for. I mean, I don't even know who.
I think you, Robert, are in line with a lot of people in this world today. So
yeah, it's so sad. I mean, in 300 million people, we can't find one person, and it doesn't have to be a guy. It could be. I would take a Golda Meir. I would take a Margaret Thatcher. I would take an Indira Gandhi. Fantastic leaders. unbelievable. But Hillary, a lot of people loved Hillary, but a lot of people didn't. You know, a lot of people love Trump, a lot of people
Yeah.
didn't. A lot of people love Biden, a lot of people don't. I don't know. A little too old for me. I think a younger guy, Dak, I would be one thing. A guy that somebody or a girl or
I 100% agree with you. I'm very
more in tune
scared
with
that
what's going on
you
today.
have someone older, and I'm out of ages. I love my older generation, but I do worry at certain points. Being a president is not a stress-free job. I mean,
Very stressful job. I
it's a
can't
very
imagine.
stressful job. And you're going to put him through this for another four, if it is Biden, another 4 years. I'm sadly concerned of if he's going to like be able to make it.
I don't think
That's
so. I don't think he's going to be the representative. But this is what I hear. This is what I hear when I hear the little political tidbits. I don't get all into it. It's just like
yeah,
the NFL. You know, I don't care about the preseason and the draft. I just once they're on the field, that's when I care. You know, when the Lions are playing the
yeah,
Giants or the Jets or whatever. LA teams, I love when they beat up on LA when they can, which they did. They were that close to making it to the Super Bowl, that close. So, but anyway,
yeah.
not to digress. But yeah, I like what's on the field. Let's see. You know,
Let's see
Trump
what
at first,
happens.
Trump was enthusiastic and things were going good, but he got screwed a little bit with the COVID. I think that, and then that brings up to the topic of scapegoats. You know, 911, Muslims were
Mhm.
scapegoats. COVID,
Yep.
the
Yeah.
Asians were scapegoats, and it was indiscriminate. And it's just
Yeah.
that's where the education comes in too. You know, what's the difference between a
Absolutely.
Hungarian, a Romanian, a Lithuanian, a Czechoslovakian? I mean, I don't even know the answer to all that, but I know a little, but I know about
Yeah.
my corner in Hungary and my parents, by the way, loved to meet people from all over the world. They loved to travel. They loved history. They were Holocaust educators. They had me educated. They were all over the world. They stayed in touch with people from Africa, India, Asia, and both in the United States and abroad. And that's the lesson too. They always wanted to learn about other people's lives and their histories.
Absolutely.
And
That's how it should be. That's how we should be doing.
that's what
That's
we're
why I
doing
travel
here. And
more and
we're
just
going to
learning
continue.
more people, learning backgrounds, learning different ways of life. It's just what we should be doing. We should be
I would
doing
be
this.
honored to be a guest again on your thing if you want to reach out, or I know you're probably busy.
Yeah.
I've been running out of matches lately, but I've been filled. The schedule's still filled up, so that's good. But
Yeah.
a couple months, maybe after the election, or a couple more book talks or signings, or
Absolutely.
that would be. I'd be most honored. Really, I mean, that's
Great. Well, Robert, thank you. Like I said, thank you again. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I wish you all the best and all the best success to come forward to you. I'm going to add your book to my list. I now have a cultivating list of books I need to work on. I'm a very bad
I'm
reader, but I need to get better about it. But I'm really intrigued by this story. It sounds really,
You'll
really,
like this one, I'm sure, and
yeah,
I hope your audience. I hope you have a far-reaching audience. I'd love to get a talk or two in New York City eventually. Oh,
yeah.
the book is available in the Long Island library system. I hear. So I don't know how many
Oh,
libraries, but it's in the Long Island library system now. So
okay.
somebody reached out about that. So
There we
I'd say,
go.
well, where's Manhattan and Brooklyn? You know, we're always a little bit. We want a little bit more, but I'm happy to hear. I'm happy that somebody's reading the book and getting the message. And uh,
That's amazing.
I've been reaching out to a lot of people for 6 years, and now I'm starting to get it back where Holocaust educators are reaching to me and trying to connect with me, and I'm doing this big talk with that, coming up with that, and hopefully that's a nice springboard for a lot more education, and that's the bottom
Yeah,
line. That's the
I love
word.
that. I love that. All right, Robert, thank you again for
Jack,
joining
God
us.
bless you. God bless
You
you.
too.
Next time
Thank you
we'll
so
talk
much.
about the book in the background.
Yes, everything else. I love it. More
God bless you.
education, more no. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right, you keep that Big Apple safe for me, huh?
I definitely will.
All right, take care, brother.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.